wish you'd understand. I just wish that God had a better plan. I'm so confused. I need a redo. Inside of me that's begging and begging and pleading. I just wanna feel free. I just wanna feel lovely. I'm surrounded by love that's in pain. Can I wipe your tears away? Please don't hurt for me. I hate that it's for me. It's for me.
Hi, welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. Thank you to Amber K for that amazing introduction into the show. Amber K is warrior number 2. She is a singer-songwriter that wrote I Hate That It's For Me. Please check out her episode. Me and Amber have teamed up just to try to help people understand what it's like living with a chronic disease and how you have to keep on fighting the fight every day. My name is Brian. I am the MS Michigan Man 64. Before I got diagnosed 28 years ago, I was playing football at the University of Michigan, and I went from living that lifestyle to 4 years after that being diagnosed with MS, and I talk about my journey as well as the journey of other chronic disease warriors around the world just to try to help people understand what it's like, how it affects your mental health, how it affects your family, how it affects your career. Today, I am talking to an MSer that I met online a couple weeks ago. Tasha was diagnosed with her MS in 2021. She actually had symptoms as far back as 2003. She had a lot of vision issues, but it went undiagnosed until 2021. She wanted to come on and talk about her journey and how she is fighting the fight. Please welcome to the podcast, Tasha. How are you doing today, Tasha?
I'm doing well, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing okay. So, Tasha, I know you got your diagnosis in 2021. We've talked a few times. I think your story is really, really amazing. I think it's important for people to hear. Can you just kind of take us through, after or how you got to that point in 2021 being told that you had MS? And, I know it started almost 20 years before that, but just kind of take us through that journey of them telling you that you were diagnosed with MS.
Yeah, so it was such a long journey for me. And I had originally optic neuritis when I was 17. But back then, optic neuritis wasn't a factor in the McDonald criteria for multiple sclerosis diagnosis.
Mhm.
And so they didn't really evaluate it further because when you're young, optic neuritis heals most of the time pretty completely. And so that's what happened to me. And then I just had years of weird symptoms. We can get into that if you want to later on. But by 2020, the end of 2020, I was in a wheelchair. And I had went to the doctor for years and had many appointments. I had several brain scans. This is where things get a little interesting. Several brain scans. They never showed anything at all, but that's because my MS actually started in my spine, which is uncommon.
Mm.
So I found that out at Mayo Clinic. A friend drove me 15 hours to Mayo Clinic, and in 2021, and they sat down with me. I had a list of all of my symptoms from 2003 on, of just every symptom, everything I had went through. And the doctor sat there for 2 hours listening to me. And he said, "You have multiple sclerosis. I just need to prove it now." And within 2 days, I was diagnosed. They did the scans and did the spinal tap, and everything came back confirmed.
So let me ask you this, Tasha. 2003, that's a long period. What are doctors telling you in that time period? You're going to the doctors, you're complaining about whatever symptoms you're complaining about.
Mhm.
What were doctors telling you?
Yeah. So that's such a great question. So the first thing that followed me for so long, and I still I struggle with this a lot. The first thing I was diagnosed with was anxiety. They said I was a hypochondriac and it was anxiety. Um, I even had a doctor go as far as saying I had possible schizophrenia
Oh,
because of my diet, because I would get so sick. I would get so sick and then I would by the time it takes several weeks to get in with a specialist.
yeah.
So I would have a relapse and then it would be several weeks before I could get in, if not months. And so I would be better when I would go in and they would just look at me like there's nothing wrong here. And so I was diagnosed with anxiety, with depression, with sorry, I'm having word finding
Oh,
problems right now.
no, you're fine.
Um
The thing that
uh
the thing that kills me,
yeah, go ahead.
no, the thing that kills me about that, is that, they're saying that it's all mental, and a lot of the
Yeah,
reason that it's mental is because they're not giving you answers. I mean,
exactly.
instead of them
Mhm,
getting to the root of the problem, and I can't believe nobody ordered an MRI in that 18-year
mhm,
period. But, instead of getting
mhm,
to the root of the problem, they're just labeling it as a mental health problem. And I hear that all the
mhm,
time with people that it's taken years to go through that to get that diagnosis, and it's
mhm.
just crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, so so I did finally start getting MRIs of my brain. I think I had 2 or 3 and my brain was clear, but it was in my spinal cord.
Right.
And so by the time they saw it, I had like 60 to 100 lesions. They like quit counting. They're like, it looks like spray paint in your spinal cord.
Wow.
And I have transverse myelitis, of course, going through my T9 and T10, which is what causes my paralysis. So I would go, but after they would tell me I have anxiety, depression, I would go see, psychiatrists, psychologists, counselors, and they were like, they would test me and say, no, you don't have anxiety or depression. You're sick. And that is what's causing you to have anxiety. And so, and the only reason they said I had depression was because of the chronic fatigue, because I'd never really struggled with depression.
Yeah.
Um, but the chronic fatigue, they were like, you're struggling from depression and you need to pull yourself out of it and you won't be too tired to take care of your children and clean your house and things like that. So it was quite interesting going through that journey. Whenever I went to Mayo Clinic, I actually was so convinced it was a mental health issue and not a physical issue. I requested a psych eval. And so I had a 2-hour psych eval with a doctor up there. And he actually ended up bringing in another doctor and they diagnosed me with demoralizing medical trauma because they already had my test results. I did not know yet, but they had my test results and they were like, you're actually sick. But when you have MS, what a lot of people don't realize, your central nervous system is literally eating itself. And so your brain goes into fight or flight and it is like, save me. Like you're hurt. It's like, you say you get your arm cut off. Your brain's getting like, oh my gosh, you're going to panic. Something's wrong with me. I need you to save me.
Right.
And so that's what happens with MS. And a lot of people don't realize that anxiety is a side effect of multiple sclerosis. It's not it's not that you just have anxiety. It's an actual symptom of multiple sclerosis.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%, Tasha. I've talked with a lot of people and I hear the same story, that it takes
Yeah.
years to get that diagnosis and it's blamed on mental. And it's just amazing that there are a lot of doctors out there. They just don't listen to us, and it's just a frustrating
Mhm.
part of the journey. So let me
Yeah.
let me ask you this. So you get your diagnosis of MS in 2021. Did you even understand what MS was at that time?
So I did not. Um, the only thing I knew about multiple sclerosis at that time is my ex-husband's aunt had it, and she went misdiagnosed for years as well. But her multiple sclerosis presented very differently than mine. So that confused me a little bit. Like, why does hers look like mine? Am I going to have the same symptoms as her at some point? I didn't know these things. And it was kind of hard because I was diagnosed by a neurologist and I did see and what they called an MS nurse, but even she was dismissing my symptoms. Like when she was trying to explain to me what MS was, she was dismissing my symptoms. And I was in a wheelchair at that point, and
Wow.
they were like, in a year, you're going to be walking normal. And it's been 5 years now, and I'm still in a wheelchair.
All right. Wow. So, what kind of path did they take you down with the DMTs after they gave you that diagnosis?
Yeah, so I was really scared. At that point, I was like, I was progressing so quickly by the time because I was 17 years into my MS journey unmedicated.
Mhm.
I was so scared and I was progressing so quickly. I was in an active flare. I lit up on the MRI at Mayo Clinic in my spinal cord. And by the time I got to Mayo Clinic, I actually did have brain lesions at that point. But but I was so scared. And so they presented me first with Mavenclad. And so I did the 2 years of Mavenclad.
Mhm.
And then that I was still progressing really quickly, and they didn't quite understand why. And so I ended up moving and I got to go to Cleveland Clinic, which was a privilege. They have an amazing Myelian center there.
Mhm.
And I they watched my progression over time and looked at my scans and whatever. And they finally were like, they determined that I had secondary progressive MS. They originally diagnosed me with relapsing remitting, but I had secondary progressive. And that's why I was still progressing so
Gotcha.
quickly, even after taking the Mavenclad.
Gotcha.
So they switched me to Tisabri at that point, and Tisabri and I did not get along.
Okay.
That was rough on me. So we then switched to Kesimpta, and I was on that for about a year. And that worked for me pretty well. However, it triggered my trigeminal neuralgia that I have from my MS
Mhm.
every month. And I actually ended up in the hospital from it. And so they were like, this is not a good choice for you. You're in too much pain. Like, we can't control this. So we moved to, after Kesimpta, we moved to Briumvi. Briumvi was too strong for me. Um, my body did not, it rejected it very harshly.
Mhm.
And then from Briumvi, we did Vumerity. Vumerity was not strong enough for me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and then I ended up getting so many infections. I think it was 20 rounds of antibiotics in 6 months
Oh my
from
gosh.
the DMTs I was on. Yeah, I was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital. It was terrible. And so they suggested me taking a break and letting my immune system build back up
Mhm.
for a little bit. And then now on Saturday, I am restarting Mavenclad because while my secondary progressive has progressed quite a bit in the last 6 months,
Mhm.
I have been more stable and I'm countering my progression with exercise. That's been like a whole new journey for me and it's been amazing. Um, but so we're restarting Mavenclad and we're hoping that I can take that and it'll give me a few years before I need to take anything else.
You know what I love about everything that you just told me is I mean, it sucks the fact that you're failing all these DMTs over and over again, but
Hmm.
you're not quitting, and you're not giving up,
Yeah.
and you're getting into the exercise part of it, which I think is huge. And I know it's
It is.
hard, and it's a commitment, but I
It
mean,
is.
it sounds like
Mhm.
you're committed to, hey, I want to get better, and I'm going to do anything I can to get better, and I love that, Tasha.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, the exercise piece, I've always known it was important. And of course, I had to go to neuro rehab 2 years ago. and because I was so bad and in such bad shape. And so I'd come a very long way since neuro rehab, but I truly am learning that there is a difference between MS progression and deconditioning of your body because we are not using our body.
Mhm.
And so I am reconditioning my body and I'm finding my limits of, okay, this is multiple sclerosis, this is deconditioning, and I can push through it.
Yeah.
And I have came a really long way with that. So,
I think that's awesome. I know I tell people all the time. I've been 28 years doing this disease, and I'm still upright and I'm mobile. I'm not as mobile as I was 28 years ago. I have to use a walker, even a wheelchair. But I'm not. I'm never going to quit, and I'm always going to try to figure
yeah,
things out. And if MS takes this away from me, I'm going to say "F you MS," and I'm going to figure out a different way to do it.
it's
And I just keep on plugging.
100%. Yes.
And
Yes. That
and
is the exact mentality.
but it's hard to get to that mentality, and I spent 2 years in a
Mhm.
spiral, and that's another thing
Yep.
I wanna talk about. You've been battling this for such a long time, and you just got the diagnosis recently. How do you handle the mental
Mhm.
part of this, Tasha?
Yeah, so I remember them specifically telling me the first 2 years, and it's funny you said 2 years. The first 2 years is the hardest because you have to figure out how your body is changing, what is MS, what is, other things. Not everything is related to MS, and that's kind of a hard thing to understand. But it took me about 2 years, and I was angry at the universe, at God, whatever you wanna call it, for me having this and me being misdiagnosed. Because I strongly believe if I would have been diagnosed back when I was 17 and started a DMT, that I would not be where I'm at today, and because I'm in pretty bad shape and I'm only 40. And so,
Right.
um, but as I was going through this journey, I discovered MS Talk on TikTok, and I started talking with people that were like me and had this disease, and they all had different stories to share. And I started sharing my story on TikTok, and then I started going live, and I constantly had people in my life, like doctors and friends and acquaintances and people on TikTok telling me that I had this like light around me and that I seemed so happy. I still get this today, that I seem so happy. And even though I'm struggling and I'm crying like every day, like trying to understand this disease, right?
Yeah.
But I still had this light about myself. And I was like, this has to mean something. And maybe this is my purpose. Maybe my purpose is to make people happy and to show people that it's not the end of the world because I have this diagnosis, because I'm in a wheelchair, because, all the things that come with multiple sclerosis, I could write a novel about. And that helped my mental health tremendously once I realized, like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm here for, is to help people. And then, as well as that, of course, I did counseling, I did cognitive behavioral therapy, a lot of mindset changes, positive affirmations. I do poetry on my TikTok page. Um, and I have almost romanticized multiple sclerosis. I keep it very realistic. I'm very much a realist, and I think that that is important.
Mhm.
But I also have romanticized having multiple sclerosis because I'm kind of, my mindset is like, what else am I supposed to do with it? Like
Yeah.
I can be bitter about it, or I can make lemons out of lemonade.
Yeah, I mean, I take a negative and make it into a positive. I totally get that. I mean, the funny thing for me is I've had it for 28 years, and for 26 out of the 28, I didn't even want to talk about my MS. I didn't want to. I
Uh-huh.
didn't even want to acknowledge the fact that I had it. I knew I had it. People knew I had it. They would ask me how I was. I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm all right." And then a couple years ago, I lost my ability to work, and my daughter actually got me
Mhm.
involved with TikTok, just like you. I was 52, 53 years old at the time, And
Yeah.
I wasn't a TikTok person. I didn't have any social media. And my daughter got me on TikTok. I met a bunch of people that have MS, and I'm like, holy
Mhm.
cow, this is like another world, you know.
It
And
is.
it was such an awesome experience for my mental health, because I went 26 out of my 28 years only knowing really one person that had MS in 26 years. You know, because I did I shut everybody out. And like going into
Mhm.
TikTok and meeting those people, and then I have a couple of Facebook groups I'm involved with, you know, just like getting that
Mhm.
community around you. I think that is so important as early as you can get involved
Yeah.
in the community, and after you get
Mhm.
diagnosed, to get those people that have that commonality so you can relate with them.
Yeah, it's really important to get that community started early. And I'm so thankful that we have the ability and resources now to do that with social media and able to meet people we can connect with and that understands what we're going through, because you can talk to somebody all day about your experiences and your MS, but unless they have it themselves, they don't really understand what you're talking about. So it's very validating. I know for myself, the community has saved me. It has helped me come back alive, I guess, so to speak. It has helped my mental health tremendously. I don't have a lot of support in real life, like in my life, I guess.
Yeah.
My mom passed away when I was young. She had breast cancer when she was diagnosed at 28, and she died when she was about 31. And then I didn't have family support past that. Except I ended up moving in with my grandma at one point, and she worked all the time and whatever. And I have, by this point, I have multiple sclerosis and I don't know it. And I'm working and going to school and trying to survive all this on my own.
Hmm.
And then I get married to a wonderful man. He's wonderful. We're divorced now, but he was a great man. But we had two kids. He's working three jobs. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I'm trying to be a good mom. I homeschooled my kids. I was a housewife. I was trying to cook and clean. And well, my husband, he only came home on Tuesdays because that was the only evening he had off work.
Hmm.
And it was very, very, very difficult. And then the last 2 years, I've been a single mom
Yeah.
to teenagers. And it has been just an incredibly difficult journey. I have a few friends that are out of state that I can call and talk to if I need like more personal like mental health things, and then I live with a friend now that does help and does some caregiving for me, and I'm being very thankful for that. But I don't have this big family to fall back on like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And so it does make things difficult and scary. Just to be frank, it makes things scary.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being a single mom and, you know, having young kids and having a chronic disease, because I was married. You know, when I first got my diagnosis, I was just getting married, and I was married for 15 years. So I always had somebody with me. And then
Mhm.
my kids were a little bit older when I went through my divorce, and I met my wife, and I still have somebody now. But I
Mhm.
know a lot of moms or even dads, you know, they go through a divorce, and they're on their own, and they're trying to deal with the chronic disease, and they got kids, and I know it's a lot, and you just seem like such a strong person mentally. What is your motivation that like makes you keep on getting up every day and keep on going? I know you actually are a certified coach now, and I want to talk a little bit
Mhm.
about that, Tasha, because I think that's awesome that somebody as young as you in
Mhm.
your disease, you've only been diagnosed since 2021, but you're out there just like advocating and helping people just to manage through it. I mean,
Mhm.
what is your motivation to keep on going? And talk a little bit about your platform that you have.
You know what is so funny is that I was talking with my friend even this morning, and he was like, I just you are such an anomaly that you are so positive and so like happy with everything that you're going through and that you've been through. It's just like what y'all heard is the tip of the iceberg, right? And my motivation, I just always say like the universe made me special or God made me special. Like I don't know. I just know that I have a purpose and I have this deep, deep passion to love others and to be kind. And if I can help somebody, that's what I want to do. And I'm a very empathetic person. And in the before I knew that I had this deep empathy and intuition, like I can feel energies and things like that. Before I realized what that was, it would drain me. And then once I did realize what it was after talking with the therapist and things, I was like, "Oh, that's what that is. I can use this to help people. I can take other people who have sad or bad or negative energy, negative self-talk." I'm actually writing a book right now called Life Spoken. And it's about speaking life into yourself and into other people and just how powerful your voice is to impact everything and everyone around you, including yourself. And so it's just I'm so incredibly passionate about it because I know it's in everybody. You just have to find it.
It is, and I totally agree with you on that, Tasha. I use myself as an example. I played football at the University of Michigan. I went from that world to the real world, and I was working in a prison, and I have a degree in communications and broadcasting, radio,
Mhm.
television, and I never worked in that industry, and now I'm doing podcasts. And, I've had MS for 28 years and there have been roadblocks and I've gone around them.
Uh-huh.
I spent 20 years with the state of Ohio. I lost that job because of my MS and
Uh-huh.
I got back into the workforce and I was still working a little bit. And I lost that ability. And I went through all these emotions and all these highs and lows throughout this 28 years. But I just keep on
Yeah.
figuring it out, and now I'm sitting here talking to
Yeah.
you and I'm meeting people from all over the world and talking to them about, just what it's like living with this disease to help people understand it because I don't think people get it. I've had it for 28
Yeah.
years and people just don't get it. And especially if you don't have it, you really
Mhm.
don't get it. So I just think talking
Yeah.
about it is so important. And I love what you do
Mhm.
and all the advocacy you do and just like trying to explain what it's like living with this disease. I think we need more people like us.
Yes, I agree completely. And I love the work that you're doing to help trying to bring awareness to all of this because it is such a misunderstood disease and misunderstood by doctors, misunderstood by family members, by peers, by everything. And if I don't know if we can just even put an inkling of understanding into other people, I think it changes the world.
So important, so important. If people wanted to hook up with you on TikTok or any of your other social media, how would they be able to find you, Tasha?
Yeah, so my TikTok, I it is life.spoken.tasha, Tasha. That is my TikTok name. And on Facebook, I'm Tasha Faith. I'm a little harder to find on Facebook. I actually have a link on my TikTok, though, that links you to a Facebook page, like a group that I run
Hmm.
to bring people together. And I'm going to start doing some more interactive things on that
Awesome.
about learning how to speak positivity and also just like kind of daily journal prompts to kind of dig into what you're feeling and things like that. So, but TikTok is probably the easiest way to find me.
Awesome. I will definitely put all of your information, all your social media in the podcast description if anybody wants to connect with you. I just love talking with
Okay.
you, Tasha. I think you're an amazing lady. The short,
Thank
and
you.
the small world that we live in, I know when we were talking before we started recording and you told me you were from Utah and I'm like, oh, I recorded with a lady out in Utah and we both are friends with the same lady with MS,
Yeah.
Nellie. And
Yes.
I was blown away. I'm like, "Oh my god, yeah, I know Nelly out in Utah." And you're like, "I know Nelly." I'm like,
Yes.
this is what it's about, all of us just coming together and just like
Uh-huh.
joining as a team and just trying to spread the awareness and trying to like,
Mhm.
take people by the hand that are just getting diagnosed and leading them
Mhm.
through this journey a little bit.
Yeah, it's important. It's an amazing. I always say, welcome to the club that nobody wants to be a part of, but I'm glad you're here because we are such a great support system for one another.
Absolutely, we
So
are. What would your, well, I'm going to invite you on whenever you want to come back on, Tasha, because I love talking to you. But what would your words be to anybody that's out there listening that might be just going through their diagnosis, just to let them know they're going to be okay? The sun's going to come up in the morning and life's going to go on. We
mhm,
just got to figure it out. What would your message be to them?
it gets better. It gets better. I remember I had a person contact me through TikTok. They were just diagnosed. They were scared out of their minds. And I was like, call me right now. Like, I'm certified life coach. Call me. We're gonna talk. And so I talked to him for about an hour, 2 hours maybe, and he sent me a video that was about 2 years ago now. He sent me a video on Facebook last week, and he was like, "Hey, look at me! It did get better. Like, you get used to it. It's not that your symptoms may not get better, but you get used to it. You adapt, and you just have to be malleable. You have to don't give up."
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can't give up with this disease. It's going to throw a lot of things at you. But
Yeah,
you can do it. And I always say that the mental part is the hardest part. Take care of your mind
yeah.
as quick as you can after that diagnosis. It doesn't matter who
Hmm.
you are, male, female, whatever you are.
Hmm.
It's going to affect
Hmm.
you mentally. And I made that
Hmm.
mistake. I didn't acknowledge that early in my disease. Big mistake. The mental part is the
Yeah.
hardest part. And I just really thank everything that you had to say to me today, Tasha. I really, really appreciate you. And you will always have an invitation on here.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Brian. It was so nice talking with you.
It was awesome. Awesome. All right, I'm going to get going. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. I am also on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64, and I'm on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Share us out. Hit the subscribe button. We want to be understood. The best way to understand us is to listen to us talk. This is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.